Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today we're here for round number 6 of the F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, and we have our home Grand Prix in Silverstone. And if you didn't check out the last episode in Austria, I would advise you to go check that out before seeing this weekend. And before this weekend, we're going to be taking maximum penalties here. We're going to have a fully fresh engine for our home Grand Prix, so qualifying doesn't exactly matter. So let's get into it anyways. So here I am here at the end of my first run in qualifying, and I'm going around the final 2 corners. It's been a shaky lap and I nearly lose the rear and I go very wide, and that is a brilliant end to the lap, and I'm only in P6 just ahead of Mazepin. But my second run was obviously much better, crossing the line now, and we're only P19, but we're not too bothered. We're going to be starting at the back anyway, unless anyone else has a grid penalty. But here are the full results from Q1, and it's a bit irritating to be off the pace, but let's see the qualifying grid.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Norris, Sergio Perez and Leclerc, Gasly, Sainz, Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso, Vettel, Ocon, Lance Stroll and Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Verstappen, George Russell and Mick Schumacher, the owner driver, Schwartzman, Mazepin and Nicholas Latifi. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So here we are on the formation lap, and surprisingly, Max Verstappen, the championship leader, had a grid penalty, sending him to P16 on the grid, which definitely is a huge game changer here. I'm now lining up on my grid slot in P19, somehow, as we're revving up to 5 red lights here for our home Grand Prix. The lights are out, and we are underway here for the British Grand Prix, and I've had a decent getaway there compared to Mick Schumacher. Meanwhile, George Russell was looking for a way past Giovinazzi. Now into turn 1, I will take my time, and I actually tap the back of Mick Schumacher. Now we're going into turn 3. I'm going to send it down the inside of Schumacher and Russell, and I have to be very careful of Giovinazzi up in front. Now through turn 4, I'm looking to hold it all the way around the outside of Russell and Antonio Giovinazzi. And now through turn 5, the Alfa Romeo will just about stay ahead of me here, and Russell will look down my inside, and I'm going to give him a massive squeeze here, going into the left-hander, wheel to wheel with the Williams. Look at that, he will try and stick down my inside, but will he be able to hold it on the outside line? Possibly not. I'm able to stay in P17. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, the 2 Mercedes are in the lead, and Lewis Hamilton is leading the British Grand Prix. He needs to get a victory. I don't know when he's going to get one, but he has to get one here today. Meanwhile, we move on to lap 3, and I'm struggling a little bit on the soft tyres. The cars ahead and behind are just so much quicker, and I'm really not feeling the grip at their front end. And thankfully, I was able to stay in the drag reduction of Giovinazzi. As we move on to the end of lap 3, on the back straight, I'm out of DRS, meaning George Russell is going to fly through, and I have absolutely nothing I can do. Maybe he'll compromise his line, he'll compromise my line, as I have to go wide. He really stuck his car in the middle of the track, and I really had to avoid him. That was frightening there. But thankfully, no damage was done, and I'm only down to P18. If I can keep up with him, then things won't be so bad. Meanwhile, Verstappen having a look at Yuki Tsunoda, wheel to wheel, the 2 Honda-powered cars are. And now through the right-hander, Yuki's going to try and hold it on the inside. He does a brilliant job of that, and Verstappen is being held by the junior team. Now through Copse. This is absolutely awful news for Verstappen. He needs to get a move on. I know, it's got engine failure. Verstappen's engine's died, and Alonso's hit the back of him. Fernando Alonso's out of the Grand Prix, and so is Max Verstappen. Absolutely crazy scenes at Maggots and Beckett's, and we have a safety car. This is brilliant news for people like Valtteri Bottas, who need to close the gap on that Red Bull car. And now it's a golden opportunity for Mercedes and a golden opportunity for everybody else to pit in for the hard tyres and make that pit stop. It's a free pit stop and some people are not taking it. Surprisingly, I've gone into the pits. I will be pitting for the hard tyres. I'm aware that they have less grip, but if I'm able to keep up with the pace, then that will absolutely help me here today. Good pit stop from the team. It didn't really matter how good the pit stop was though, since we were still going to be at the back. And crucially, Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas have not pitted under the safety car. They believe that they don't want to be in traffic. I mean, fair enough. If they're quick enough together, if they can use DRS with each other, then they can fly away from the field. Meanwhile, the GOAT Nikita Mazepin is P11 right now, and he has a high chance of getting into the top 10. Let's ignore the fact that he hasn't actually pitted yet. We don't care about that. Meanwhile, I've now finally caught up to the safety car queue. And meanwhile, while I was catching them, it really felt like the hard tyres were not the good tyres to be on. Maybe we made the wrong choice, but it's either that or we actually end up being a pit stop behind everyone as the safety car is ending on this very lap. So I need to make sure I get the exit absolutely spot on, but I feel like it's going to be a bit tricky to catch up and keep up with that Ferrari and the AlphaTauri. We're not quite there yet, but maybe if I'm able to stay in that DRS somehow, that will be absolutely brilliant. The green flags are out and we are underway again here in Silverstone, and round the final few corners I go. I'm not really fighting, as I'm just trying to make sure that they don't fly away, and look at that, they've flown away from me already on the straight. This is terrible news, absolutely awful. That is not what we needed, but hopefully we'll be able to keep up with them since they'll be stuck in traffic. But that has been a terrible safety car restart. Meanwhile, towards the front of the field, Daniel Ricciardo going down the inside of Mazepin, both of them leaving just enough room for both cars to go through, and Danny Ric moves up into the top 10, and Sergio Perez will do the same there, through Maggots and Beckett's. What a move. But we move to lap 9, 2 laps after the safety car ended, and look how far behind we are. I'm really struggling to keep up with those midfield cars, and that is terrible news considering we are aiming to get some points here today. Meanwhile, Ricciardo again, what a drive it is from him so far. He's having a look at George Russell down the inside, and that is a beautiful move from Daniel Ricciardo. He could actually be in contention to win today's Grand Prix. With this pace, I would not be surprised. Meanwhile, back with my perspective, I'm in P17 here on lap 11, and some drivers are entering the pit lane, and I will go up a few positions. I'm up into P12, I believe, ahead of the 2 Mercedes cars who have both pitted in for the final time. And we move on to lap 12, the end of lap 12 should I say, and look how close the Mercedes cars are behind me. They're going to have me at any second now. I'm pretty sure on that actually not the main straight, the Hamilton straight, I'm sure that Lewis Hamilton will be sizing up a move. Here he goes, he moves to the inside line. I will try to defend, but there really isn't much I can do on that straight. I go a bit wide as I did try and stick with him. Hamilton moves up into P9, and already my hopes of getting the points are already being dashed, because how on earth am I going to keep a Mercedes behind for 13 laps? It would be simply a miracle if I kept him behind at the end of the straight. And look at that, he's already making a move. Valtteri Bottas will take the final point there. Into P10 he goes, and there's literally nothing. I'll try and get a bit close to him, but I don't have the front end grip to really fight with the Mercedes car, so I have to just sit down and stay in P11. And we move on to lap 18, many laps later, as I've been kind of driving, wondering where the hell the grip is. Stroll is now right behind me here, and he's going to go down my inside, and there's nothing that I can do. I do not have the grip available. I'll try and hang it on the outside line, but look how much grip he has. I could literally, I'm a sitting duck on the straight, and I cannot really seem to defend in any of these corners here today. We are really struggling, and here goes Ocon now, around my outside. Can I fight back here on the inside? I can do, with remaining wheel to wheel, but I just go too wide, too much understeer, and again, I'm overtaken down into P13. This is a demoralising way to fall down the order, and now we're trying to hold off Kimi Raikkonen. He will try down my inside. I believe we made contact, but thankfully I did not get any damage. But I do believe that Kimi Raikkonen has damage, because look at this move from Antonio Giovinazzi around the outside of his teammate at Cops. That was absolutely beautiful. I'll praise that move. That was fantastic. But the issue is, he's about to make another move, and this time, I am the man who is going to lose a position. I'm down into P14, simply unable to defend there. And we move on to the penultimate lap, and I actually did a PB. You know what? There's some of the grip I was looking for the last 20 laps on these tyres. But now... now we move on. I apologise for that. I do not know what I found exactly funny. But anyway, we move on here to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. And George Russell was looking for another move here. He seems really strong about going to the inside line. And I have to let him go eventually. He moves up into P14. And I'm left here to wonder what more I can do to defend here. Without the straight line speed or the grip, it seems impossible. Meanwhile, something that doesn't seem impossible is Daniel Ricciardo crossing the line to win the British Grand Prix. What a drive from the McLaren. And Lando Norris and Sergio Perez complete the podium. It's a 1-2 for McLaren. And meanwhile for me, I'm coming round the final two corners and I've spun round on the final lap. And Kimi Raikkonen's been collected. That is not ideal. Not an ideal way to finish the Grand Prix. But it just shows how much we've been struggling. And that is the end to a very disappointing British Grand Prix.
Well, they've done a brilliant job, I must say, under some intense pressure to take a well-earned victory here at the British Grand Prix. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the McLaren team, and I'm really happy to see them there on the top step of the podium.
Well, that is definitely one thing me and Crofty can agree on, but that will end today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Let's take a look at the drivers' standings. And with that performance, Daniel Ricciardo takes his place as the new Drivers' Championship leader. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
Nicholas Latifi gets my vote today.
Let's move on to the constructors. McLaren supplant the previous leaders, taking control of the championship. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Life golden, yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see it shine, 'cause we're golden.